Language Foundations Vocabulary Flashcards, helping you achieve understanding.
An obstruction in a pipe or tube. A rule for limiting or ending debate in a deliberative body. A gestalt principle of organization holding that there is an innate tendency to perceive incomplete objects as complete and to close or fill gaps and to perceive asymmetric stimuli as symmetric. The act of blocking. Approaching a particular destination. A coming closer. A narrowing of a gap. Termination of operations. They regretted the closure of the day care center. Something settled or resolved. The outcome of decision-making. He needed to grieve before he could achieve a sense of closure. Terminate debate by calling for a vote. Debate was closured. An obstruction in a pipe or tube. We had to call a plumber to clear out the blockage in the drainpipe. The act of obstructing or deflecting someone's movements. A platform from which an auctioneer sells. They put their paintings on the block. A three-dimensional shape with 6 square or rectangular sides. Prohibit the conversion or use of assets. An inability to remember or think of something you normally can do, often caused by emotional tension. I knew his name perfectly well, but I had a temporary block. Stop from happening or developing. Be unable to remember. You are blocking the name of your first wife. Block passage through. A simple machine consisting of a wheel with a groove in which a rope can run to change the direction or point of application of a force applied to the rope. Render unsuitable for passage. Block the way. Shut out from view or get in the way so as to hide from sight. The thick curtain blocked the action on the stage. Interfere with or prevent the reception of signals. Block the signals emitted by this station. Obstruct. Her arteries are blocked. A metal casting containing the cylinders and cooling ducts of an engine. The engine had to be replaced because the block was cracked. A rectangular area in a city surrounded by streets and usually containing several buildings. He lives in the next block. Impede the movement of an opponent or a ball. Block an attack. Hinder or prevent the progress or accomplishment of. His brother blocked him at every turn. A number or quantity of related things dealt with as a unit. He reserved a large block of seats. A solid piece of something, usually having flat rectangular sides. The pyramids were built with large stone blocks. Computer science, a sector or group of sectors that function as the smallest data unit permitted. Since blocks are often defined as a single sector, the terms block and sector are sometimes used interchangeably. Housing in a large building that is divided into separate units. There is a block of classrooms in the West Wing. Interrupt the normal function of by means of anesthesia. Block a nerve. Run on a block system. Block trains. Shape by using a block. Block a garment. Shape into a block or blocks. Block the graphs so one can see the results clearly. Stamp or emboss a title or design on a book with a block. Block the book cover. Support, secure, or raise with a block. Block a plate for printing. An obstruction in a pipe or tube. We had to call a plumber to clear out the blockage in the drainpipe. The act of blocking. The physical condition of blocking or filling a passage with an obstruction. Meteorology. A composite front when colder air surrounds a mass of warm air and forces it aloft. An obstruction in a pipe or tube. The act of blocking. Closure or blockage, as of a blood vessel. Dentistry. The normal spatial relation of the teeth when the jaws are closed. Put an end to a state or an activity. An obstruction in a pipe or tube. The act of stopping something. The third baseman made some remarkable stops. Prevent completion. Stop the project. The state of inactivity following an interruption. He spent the entire stop in his seat. Stop from happening or developing. Render unsuitable for passage. Stop the busy road. A restraint that checks the motion of something. He used a book as a stop to hold the door open. Have an end, in a temporal, spatial, or quantitative sense, either spatial or metaphorical. Your rights stop where you infringe upon the rights of other. Stop and wait, as if awaiting further instructions or developments. Interrupt a trip. We stopped at Aunt Mary's house. Seize on its way. A mechanical device in a camera that controls size of aperture of the lens. A consonant produced by stopping the flow of air at some point and suddenly releasing it. His stop consonants are too aspirated. Come to a halt, stop moving. The car stopped. The event of something ending. It came to a stop at the bottom of the hill. A brief stay in the course of a journey. They made a stopover to visit their friends. A punctuation mark, placed at the end of a declarative sentence to indicate a full stop or after abbreviations. In England they call a period a stop. Hold back, as of a danger or an enemy. Check the expansion or influence of. A spot where something halts or pauses. His next stop is Atlanta. Cause to stop. Stop a car. Music. A knob on an organ that is pulled to change the sound quality from the organ pipes. The organist pulled out all the stops. An obstruction in a pipe or tube. The act of stopping something. His stoppage of the flow resulted in a flood. The state of inactivity following an interruption. A rule for limiting or ending debate in a deliberative body. Terminate debate by calling for a vote. Clôture the discussion. A rule for limiting or ending debate in a deliberative body. Any law that limits freedom of the press. A rule for limiting or ending debate in a deliberative body. A gestalt principle of organization holding that there is an innate tendency to perceive incomplete objects as complete and to close or fill gaps and to perceive asymmetric stimuli as symmetric. Approaching a particular destination. A coming closer. A narrowing of a gap. The ship's rapid rate of closing gave them little time to avoid a collision. The last section of a communication. Termination of operations. The act of closing something. A concluding action. final or ending. The closing stages of the election. Termination of operations. Termination of operations. The trait of being resolute. It was his unshakable resolution to finish the work. Analysis into clear-cut components. A formal expression by a meeting. Agreed to by a vote. A statement that solves a problem or explains how to solve the problem. Finding a solution to a problem. The ability of a microscope or telescope to measure the angular separation of images that are close together. Something settled or resolved. The outcome of decision-making. They never did achieve a final resolution of their differences. A decision to do something or to behave in a certain manner. He always wrote down his New Year's resolutions. Computer science. The number of pixels per square inch on a computer-generated display. The greater the resolution, the better the picture. Music. A dissonant chord is followed by a consonant chord. The subsidence of swelling or other signs of inflammation, especially in a lung. The act of colonizing. The establishment of colonies. A community of people smaller than a town. Termination of a business operation by using its assets to discharge its liabilities. A body of people who settle far from home but maintain ties with their homeland. Inhabitants remain nationals of their home state but are not literally under the home state's system of government. Something settled or resolved. The outcome of decision-making. They finally reached a settlement with the Union. A conclusive resolution of a matter and disposition of it. An area where a group of families live together. Any structure that makes progress difficult. Someone who systematically obstructs some action that others want to take. Any structure that makes progress difficult. Someone who systematically obstructs some action that others want to take. Any structure that makes progress difficult. The baggage and equipment carried by an army. Any structure that makes progress difficult. Something immaterial that stands in the way and must be circumvented or surmounted. The filibuster was a major obstruction to the success of their plan. The physical condition of blocking or filling a passage with an obstruction. Getting in someone's way. The act of obstructing. Obstruction of justice. Any structure that makes progress difficult. Something immaterial that interferes with or delays action or progress. A body of rules followed by an assembly. A body of rules followed by an assembly. Usually plural, the status or rank or office of a Christian clergyman in an ecclesiastical hierarchy. Assign a rank or rating to. A commercial document used to request someone to supply something in return for payment and providing specifications and quantities. IBM received an order for 100 computers. A group of person living under a religious rule. The Order of Saint Benedict. Give instructions to or direct somebody to do something with authority. She ordered him to do the shopping. Appoint to a clerical posts. Issue commands or orders for. A degree in a continuum of size or quantity. It was on the order of a mile. A condition of regular or proper arrangement. He put his desk in order. A body of rules followed by an assembly. A legally binding command or decision entered on the court record, as if issued by a court or judge. A friend in New Mexico said that the order caused no trouble out there. Arrange thoughts, ideas, temporal events. The act of putting things in a sequential arrangement. There were mistakes in the ordering of items on the list. A formal association of people with similar interests. Men from the fraternal order will staff the soup kitchen today. Logical or comprehensible arrangement of separate elements. We shall consider these questions in the inverse order of their presentation. Bring into conformity with rules or principles or usage. Impose regulations. Architecture. One of original three styles of Greek architecture distinguished by the type of column and entablature used or a style developed from the original three by the Romans. A request for something to be made, supplied, or served. I gave the waiter my order. Biology. Taxonomic group containing one or more families. Bring order to or into. Established customary state, especially of society. Order ruled in the streets. Make a request for something. Order a work stoppage. Often plural, a command given by a superior, e.g., a military or law enforcement officer, that must be obeyed. The British ships dropped anchor and waited for orders from London. Place in a certain order. Order the photos chronologically. A body of rules followed by an assembly. A principle of gestalt psychology that identifies factors leading to particular forms of perceptual organization. A principle of gestalt psychology that identifies factors leading to particular forms of perceptual organization. The act of drawing spatially closer to something. Arrival that has been awaited, especially of something momentous. The moment of most intense pleasure in sexual intercourse. The temporal property of becoming nearer in time. Of the relatively near future. This coming Thursday. The act of drawing spatially closer to something. The hunter's approach scattered the geese. Ideas or actions intended to deal with a problem or situation. His approach to every problem is to draw up a list of pros and cons. Move towards. We were approaching our destination. The event of one object coming closer to another. A relatively short golf shot intended to put the ball onto the putting green. He lost the hole when his approach rolled over the green. A tentative suggestion designed to elicit the reactions of others. A way of entering or leaving. Come near in time. Winter is approaching. Begin to deal with. Approach a task. The temporal property of becoming nearer in time. The approach of winter. Come near or verge on, resemble, come nearer in quality, or character. His playing approaches that of Horowitz. The final path followed by an aircraft as it is landing. A close approximation. The nearest approach to genius. Make advances to someone, usually with a proposal or suggestion. I was approached by the president to serve as his advisor in foreign matters. The act of drawing spatially closer to something. The event of one object coming closer to another. The temporal property of becoming nearer in time. Of the relatively near future. The approaching election. The end of a word, a suffix or inflectional ending or final morpheme. The act of ending something. The termination of the agreement. A coming to an end of a contract period. A place where something ends or is complete. Something that results. Event whose occurrence ends something. His death marked the ending of an era. The end of a word, a suffix or inflectional ending or final morpheme. I don't like words that have ism as an ending. The act of ending something. The last section of a communication. The point in time at which something ends. The ending of warranty period.
Become our student and get access to effective and free educational materials. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to become a part of our growing YouTube community and to learn English effectively.